My favorite animal to eat has to be chicken. I mean, I come from a West Indian background. You know, you got jerk chicken, curry chicken, fried chicken, jerk chicken. So nice, I had to say it twice. There's so many different ways to cook chickens, different marinades, and all of those things. Speaking of that, I wonder how Bukayo Saka likes it, especially with his new Nando sauce. And again, the chickens got fried. Arsenal 3, Tottenham hot shite 2, North London derby. Arsenal reign supreme. We should have done it at the Emirates. It was dramatic at the end, but we got it done. And we're eating good, to be fair. 2 London derbies. Our enemies were conspiring against us, and we cooked them both. Chelsea held a 5-piece. We done what we did to Chick King FC, and we keep it moving, folks, really. It was unneeded drama, but at the end, 3 points is all that matters, and bragging rights. We'll always have bragging rights over Spurs, and Arsenal fans can continue to be in high spirits. And our last 3 games in the Prem have been superb, really and truly. On the balance of things, as I said, it was a more even game than initially going 3-0 up would suggest. On another day, Spurs could have been let back in it. On another day, we probably needed to defend a lot better. Let's get into exactly what I mean by such. At this point in the season, you just want 3 points. And obviously, in a North London derby against your rivals, I don't class Spurs as rivals because they're not in the same realm as us. But again, if they are defined as rivals, it's just about getting 3 points. You know, Spurs could be fighting for top 4, even though Aston Villa are running away with it. If you just look at the media sentiment going into this game, it was all about Arsenal and Tottenham spoiling the day off the backdrop of the fact that going into it, they have us, Liverpool and City. Allow it later. Spurs can't talk to us again. So I'm happy to win the game. I'm happy because obviously Spurs had, 2 weeks off essentially going into this game, and we had a condensed fixture calendar list, and they've got nothing to show for it. But I'm not going to lie to you. Whatever way we shape it and we're going to go into it, I think the 5 goals conceded on this football pitch were terrible from both teams. I think Havertz's goal was wonderful to set up for, Havertz's assist for Saka was great, but I'm not sure Postecoglou be happy with the 3 goals they conceded. Mikel Arteta definitely won't be happy with the 2 goals we conceded, whether it was individual mistakes, switching off at set pieces, etc., etc. And it was lovely to find ourselves 3-0 up in the first half, but 60 odd minutes, it's gone from a quote-unquote comfortable 3-0 lead to a dramatic 3-2 holding on. We can't afford to do that, people. I know emotions run high, but we did make it harder than it need to be. And again, we probably should have got a clean sheet, but who really cares? I respect the team for grinding out the performance. I do feel going back the last few games, there have been moments of real quality and others which have been indifferent. I do think I think we were better in the second half against Chelsea. I think, we went through the motions to a degree against Spurs, and definitely when we lost to Aston Villa, we were terrible in the second half. As I said, at this stage, it's just results. And to be very honest, in elite high performance environments like professional football, from August to now, where you've got 38 games and other competitions, I can't expect you to be amazing in every game. Form is going to fluctuate. In terms of that, it makes it impossible simply to stay at that level. But I do think when we remove emotions, we earned the right to win, but we do have to count our blessings that it didn't go left for us. And if it did, I don't think there'd be anyone but ourselves to blame. But with that being said, let's review the goals. Now, what Arsenal are not given credit for is that off the ball we're superb. Now, I think the first 5-10 minutes, naturally Spurs, I won't quite say they came out of, the blocks firing, but they were amped for the game. They were up for it. They were passing the ball. There was exchanges where, to be honest with you, every player apart from Vicario was in our half. But sometimes you've got to do that going away to certain grounds. We know they're going to be amped for it. They've got nothing to play for other than to spoil our day. So it's about boxing smart. And I do think all 5 goals, both teams engineered their own downfall in those regards. Let's be honest. As much as, I'm happy to beat Spurs, we went 3-0 up, and then it was dramatics at the end, and it was probably the longest 6 to 10 minutes I've had in my life, people. So there are many things we could have done better, but Spurs engineered their own goal. They're literally their own outdoing for that own goal with Højbjerg. Now we know Spurs, I do think for Saka's goal, the high line killed them. and on the transition. But we know Spurs like to play out from the back. We know their fullbacks invert. And that's kind of what you saw in the build-up to what gave away the corner, which led to their demise. You know, Romero's giving it to Vicario. To be honest with you, you know, at first it looks like there's nothing because there's a passage of play. We're starting to creep further up the pitch, but nothing's come of it. Romero's giving it to Vicario. And then it's like, to be honest with you, Arsenal have smelt blood a bit. Odegaard, Saka have kind of gone. Vicario's pulled out wide. And we've kind of gambled that now's the press. They've set up the trap. Vicario's pass is absolutely terrible to Van der Veen, one of the best players on the park for Spurs. You know, Ben Davies has pulled out from the inverted role to offer an angle. Van der Veen's pass isn't necessarily the best. As you can see, not to scale. Davies is kind of done short. We've picked their pocket. By then, I believe Declan Rice, if we just advance things, has come forward. And then obviously, again, it's led to a corner of such. And then obviously from that resulted corner, Højbjerg's put it in the back of his own net. But that's what I mean about engineering your own downfall. Would it be fair to say that was Kai Havertz's best game in an Arsenal shirt? You could say the same about Chelsea, but for me, he was amazing. And I'm happy we scored that goal because we caught Spurs on the transition. Their high line is stupid. And you were obviously going to see, you know, Ben Davies, who I didn't feel got embarrassed by Bukayo Saka. They were caught against the transition of play. Maddison's out here diving, appealing for pens. What a shameful performance he is. Now, again, their high line presents its own issues. You know, it's very narrow. And again, I think the theme of the North London derby was self-inflicted mistakes. Rice has won the ball. He's found Saka. Saka's played it to Havertz. Havertz probably should have played it a lot quicker. He's pulled it in behind for Bukayo Saka. Spurs' centre halves are far too narrow. Ben Davies isn't switched on. By then, Van der Veen is trying to get back. It's a beautiful sequence from Saka, from the pass initially to the touch to obviously slotting it home. And big up Kai Havertz for that pass because it was amazing as well. Big up Havertz for scoring, as getting an assist. Man of the match, in my opinion. Now, David Raya, you know, he was the hero against Porto. Mistakes happen, especially in the modern day when you're playing out from the back. 9 out of 10 times, Raya makes that pass. Unfortunately, the one time where you don't want to see it, it didn't happen. And he did try to find Partey. I must admit, I asked him to find Partey in my watch-along. Did he have easier options? I don't know. But ultimately, when we're winning 3-0, we've invited pressure and given Spurs an inkling back into the game. Ultimately, we managed the game well enough, and I think there was a suitable amount of street smartness. But, you know, considering we're 3-0 up at half-time once again, by the hour mark, we're winning 3-0. Raya's mistake, and you throw in, you know, the penalty towards the end of the game. It makes it an unnecessary, dramatic end to the game. Now, coulda, woulda, shoulda has no place. Fact is, we got 3 points, but we won't always get away with that, really and truly. And I do think on occasions this season, for as great as Arsenal have been, that's something that needs to be eradicated. And as I said, I don't think Mikel Arteta will be happy defensively. I think for the large part, we did well. You know, I did think there was some fine margins. Maybe on another day, Van der Ven's goal isn't ruled out. But, you know, I thought Saka should have scored another goal, if I'm honest, because Kai Havertz should have 2 assists. But we won the war, in it. We got 3 points. And this is what I mean when I say on my channel, I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy. We need to chase the illusion of perfection, which would obviously have been a clean sheet, because they didn't deserve to score, really. We shot ourselves in the foot. Obviously, the penalty and David Raya's, you know, mistake invited, I wouldn't say nerves from Arsenal, but, you know, maybe nerves within the Arsenal fan base, or definitely. And obviously gave Spurs an inkling back into the game. Unfortunately for them, unfortunately for Arsenal, it didn't mean anything, though. There were moments we obviously had to live dangerously. Spurs had every player on the edge of the halfway line or in our half. And there were times that we had to sit low and defend deep. Now, that is one of Tottenham's kryptonites, I'm sure their fans would say. They struggle with low blocks generally. And naturally, you know, we have the confidence to defend in such numbers. Obviously, you did see at moments, you know, Romero, Van der Ven would have the ball. Højbjerg would be in this half space to give an extra protection. You know, they do invert their fullbacks like us, and Davies, as much respect as he had to give to Saka, he does become narrow, as does Porro. And they were relying on Pedro Porro to make such run, and to a degree Davies, while they had their wide men kind of in the half space as you would expect. Now, obviously, Arsenal have the confidence, again, for disclaimer, the 5 goals conceded, I'm sure both managers would want to do a lot better. But naturally, if the fullbacks are narrow, then in theory, the Bentacors, the Madisons, the Son Heung-mins, who should really be playing out wide, probably should have brought on Richarlison sooner, can connect and obviously have efforts that could ultimately lead to going in the back of Raya's net. Now, Kulusevski's not essentially a wide playmaker. Like, he's a wide playmaker. He's not an attacking sort of inside forward. And we knew that if Tottenham Hotspur were to recycle possession from their goalie and shaking it all about wherever they want, they're just going to play in front of us. They're going to play in front of us. Naturally, if he's got the ball, Odegaard and Havertz are going to lead chase. And we've shown, we've kept a clean sheet against Manchester City. If it goes out to Kulusevski, then obviously Trossard is on the case. And likewise with Bukayo Saka on the left-hand side. Or it could be a thing where, as you saw, Tomiyasu was following Kulusevski around all game. There was even a moment they were on the opposite side of the pitch. So there were periods we had to do that. And I do like the fact that we've been able to showcase we can do that this season. So yeah, in conclusion, it's always nice to beat them lot from down the road and fry the chickens. They've got cocks on their crest. How do they think they'll ever beat us? I don't know, people, but there's levels between the clubs. So it's nice to win the North London derby. It's lovely to have a great record against the top 6 relatively. And it just shows we're improving as a football club. And there's always things we could do better. It's nice to have the bragging rights over Tottenham. It's nice to keep this title debate going for another week. Manchester City don't look like they're going to slip up. Pep Guardiola, let us just have one Premier League title, man. You've got a lot of them. I would have loved a clean sheet. I would have loved to have made Spurs work harder for the goals we conceded. I would have loved to have scored more, but it's a results-driven business. And I think individually and collectively, we've done enough to get the victory. And the dream keeps going for Mikel Arteta's men and the football club we love for another week. We've got 3 difficult games. You cannot rest on your laurels. Yes, it's nice to have done and dealt with, 2 London derbies in Chelsea and Spurs, but it means nothing if you slip up against against Man United, Everton and Bournemouth, people. Apologies. It means absolutely nothing. I'm sure a lot of you would have seen Pep Guardiola's comments and saying City can't afford to draw a game. So it's war in this last leg of the Premier League race. Smash the like button, comment, let me know your thoughts.